into this kind of quickly if it'll ever. There it goes. Okay, so now we're on part 3. All right, so I'm reading from this again from J. Steve Lee is the author of this insert in this Apologetics Bible, and it's called Why Does God Allow Evil? And I'm skipping over some of it because it's too long and it's not important to what I'm talking about. Many suppose that the existence of evil proves that God does not exist, but our ability to recognize evil is actually a good reason to believe in God. If there was no God, there would be no objective or universal standard by which we measure good and evil. I know that sounds deep, but just hold up and think about this. Since all humans agree that good and evil are real distinctions, I mean, there is good and there is evil, there must be an independent, eternal standard to ground moral standards. That standard is God himself. Or it doesn't say himself, but I'm saying that. The standard of what is good is God. And I've heard different preachers. I know Andy Stanley does a really good DVD on this or CD on this if you want to go look for it. Andy Stanley, he's a preacher, and it's called How Good is Good Enough. And then he's got another one called, and I think it's a little mini series, another good one called God is Great, God is Good. Okay, and it basically is talking about if God is so good, then why would he allow evil? And so anyway, and how good is good enough to get in heaven? I mean, what is good? What is considered moral? Because that could vary depending on societies. That's certainly changing in America, but it's been changing for a long time on the earth. So it's, America's just, I don't know. Anyway, so God's the standard. He's perfect. He's holy. And we fall, like if God's up here, we don't fall here, like halfway down. We're down below this desk here. We're not even close. We're not, it's indistinguishable, our goodness. Some people tried, like Andy Stanley says, okay, maybe this will help you if you say, okay, God's here, maybe I'd place, where do I fit? Well, let's take some people we think are really good. Let's take Billy Graham. Everybody likes Billy Graham because he's an evangelist. He's brought millions of people to God. We'll stick Billy about maybe here. And then we'll take an incredible leader. Let's take Martin Luther King, who talked about making change without violence and helped a lot of people. We'll put him, maybe we'll put him right there with Billy because of the amount of change he caused. And let's get somebody else in ministry. Let's do Mother Teresa. Remember, she took a vow of poverty just to go reach out to the most impoverished people in the world of India. In India, and what they're called the untouchables, and other places, but she's really, really good too. We may even bump her up above them. We'll put her right there. So where do I fall? And you're like, well, we don't know, but still, what makes her good enough or him good enough? Or what is the standard? How good is good enough? Well, the standard is God, and nobody's good enough except God. So that, first of all, you got to get the standard. So then you say, well, that being the case, many still wonder why God would allow evil to occur at all. Some philosophers claim that the existence of evil is logically incomparable with the existence of an all-good, all-powerful God. If God exists, evil cannot. If evil exists, God cannot. And God and evil are logically contradictory and thus cannot coexist in the real world. That sounds like college for you, or a professor somewhere who's doing an atheistic binge. Very few philosophers think this argument is successful after all. It's logically possible that God, though he is all-powerful and all-knowing, has good reason for allowing evil to exist. For example, one reason God could allow evil is preserving the human free will. Now, this is what I was talking about before. God is certainly powerful enough to prevent us from doing evil. He can make us stop if he wants to, but that would be taking away our free will. And by doing so, we would be little robots. And he wants us to have free will to choose to love. And it breaks his heart when we choose to hate or choose to not disagree. You can disagree with someone's lifestyle. You can disagree with someone's actions. You can disagree with something someone says. That is not hate. Hate is an action of evil, meaning you are doing something to hurt someone else. Or before you actually take the action, you hate them in your mind first. Because Jesus said, hey, what's going on in here is just as bad as when you act it out. And honestly, once you start this, you will end up acting it out. That's why, and hate is not of God, unless you're hating sin. So he could stop us from evil, but he can't make us always choose good, because if he does, then we're not free. If he takes away our power to choose, we're not free. Now, that wouldn't fall true for every single argument out there. Like, I can just hear someone saying, well, what about abortion? If you don't let a woman choose, then she's not free. Well, here's the only thing. This is the one situation where there's two human beings involved. You've got the baby in there who can't choose. So whatever choice she makes, that baby lives or dies. Not to mention that abortion